The biopic made $715 million celebrating Michael Jackson, and today, the same day, Netflix dropped 3 episodes showing everything that biopic refused to touch. Michael Jackson, The Verdict, is now streaming, all 3 episodes, available right now. And the internet is already losing its mind because what's in it directly contradicts almost everything the $200 million Hollywood film wanted you to believe about the King of Pop. Here's what you need to understand first. The biopic, directed by Antoine Fuqua, starring Jafar Jackson, originally filmed a 3rd act set inside the investigation at Neverland Ranch, a scene where Michael is depicted being searched and treated, in Fuqua's own words, like an animal, like a monster. That scene was deleted. 22 days of reshoots. The budget jumped from $155 million to $200 million. And the reason that scene disappeared was because someone discovered a legal clause buried in a 1993 settlement that prohibited that depiction from ever appearing in a film. So the movie that made $97 million in its opening weekend in America alone, that movie, never showed you what Netflix just put on your screen today. The docuseries opens inside Neverland Ranch. Not the fantasy version with the rides in the zoo and the gates with the name in iron letters. The version with law enforcement walking through every room. Never before seen footage from the search warrant execution officers combing through hidden stairwells, rooms stacked with videotapes and figurines, bedrooms that nobody outside of that courtroom ever got to see. No cameras were allowed inside the Santa Barbara County Superior Court during the 2005 trial. That's actually why director Nick Green made this documentary at all. The public never saw the real evidence. They saw courtroom sketches and nightly news reenactments. What Netflix is showing you is the version that was locked away for over 2 decades. Episode 1 goes back to the beginning. Martin Bashir, the BBC journalist who filmed Living with Michael Jackson in 2003, appears on camera and describes what it was like to watch a grown man hold a 12-year-old's hand and explain that sharing a bedroom with children was the most loving thing you can do. Bashir says he was, in his own words, gobsmacked. That documentary sparked the investigation. It was the moment that changed everything. And while the biopic completely ignored everything that happened after 1988, no 1993 accusations, no Neverland raid, no trial, Netflix is starting exactly where the biopic stopped. Episode 2 is where it gets complicated. The trial begins in 2005. Gavin Arvizo, the 13-year-old accuser, a cancer patient who said Jackson helped him when he was sick, is the center of everything. And here's the detail that both sides in this debate always come back to. Jackson's defense argued that Gavin's mother, Janet, was a con artist who coached her son to make false accusations for money. The prosecution argued the opposite. What the Netflix documentary shows through interviews with attorneys, journalists, and the jurors who were actually in that room is how difficult it was to separate the man from the myth. Jackson's star power was so overwhelming, his legal team so skilled, that the jury was, by their own admission, thrown into genuine doubt. Episode 3 is where the acquittal happens. Not guilty on all 14 counts. June 13, 2005, and the documentary doesn't frame that as a celebration. It frames it as a wound. Because what came out of that trial, the Neverland workers who testified, the pattern of behavior witnesses described, the way the case was built and then dismantled it, left everyone involved permanently changed. One reviewer at the Daily Beast called the series an unsettling portrait of the moonwalking icon's darker side. Variety said it functions less as a verdict and more as an examination of our collective obsession with celebrity, who the public is willing to believe, and why. And that's the line that explains why this documentary matters right now. Not in 2005. Not in 2019 when Leaving Neverland dropped on HBO. Now in 2026. While the biopic is still in theaters. While his streaming numbers just broke records. While the Cascio family has filed a federal lawsuit. And Dan Reed is building a 3rd documentary aimed at a civil trial scheduled for November. The estate has said nothing publicly about the verdict. No statement. No injunction attempt. Just silence while Netflix runs a 3-part series showing the courtroom they spent $200 million making sure nobody saw on the big screen. The biopic gave Michael Jackson the ending he wanted. Netflix just reminded everyone the story never actually ended. And the Robson and Safechuck civil trial is still coming in November, which means we're nowhere near done. Subscribe, because when that courtroom opens, we're covering everything.